On April 3, 2008, I was going about my usual day when all of a sudden I felt a searing ache in my stomach. Things didn't start out so awful, but they kept getting worse. I was told by a doctor that I had acute appendicitis, and before I knew it, my husband and I were in a hospital room. It turned out that the source of all that excruciating pain was my appendix, which was acting up and becoming infected or clogged. The surgeon strongly recommended surgery in order to prevent complications during a medical emergency. The doctor tried to calm me down despite my anxiety by telling me the surgery was simple and had little dangers. The procedure went well at first, but things went wrong when a wound infection was discovered during the recovery period. This meant that a second surgery was required to deal with issues caused by staph germs. There were unique difficulties associated with the second surgery experience. Despite being sedated, I was still sensitive to background noise and heard bits and pieces of conversations concerning my family, which left me feeling a confused and angry combination. The ubiquitous staph germs made things more difficult and presented a challenging challenge to eliminate. When I emerged from the intensive care unit, my family's serious features betrayed a deep sense of concern. I wanted to reassure my loved ones, but I was unable to communicate due to an oxygen tube in my throat. As the doctor talked with my family and raised the issue of possible brain damage, the seriousness of the situation became clear. Medical professionals considered the use of antibiotic treatment, highlighting the associated hazards as the staph infection persisted in its sneaky spread. Due to communication difficulties, I was unable to keep my family overnight, so my attempts to express distress were witnessed in the hospital room. After a nurse briefly left to pick up her daughter from school, the situation worsened and I was left struggling to breathe because the tube had gotten blocked, preventing oxygen from reaching my lungs. I was unable to express how upset I was, so my body twisted in an attempt to warn everyone around me. Time felt unending, like a torturous torture that lasted forever. Then, all at once, the stillness was broken by an alarm that announced the arrival of a panicked group of physicians and nurses, whose frantic calls prompted a group of experts. Their mad, dashed efforts filled the room, and while I could hear every desperate order, my capacity to breathe slowly withdrew. In an attempt to remove the obstruction, the doctor quickly injected liquids through a tube. A strange disassociation engulfed me as my heart stopped beating and my breathing stopped. I had departed from my physical form at that moment. When my eyes opened again, I was upside down in a hospital gown, and the agony had been replaced with a sudden, overpowering sense of rest. My body lay below, attended by a phalanx of physicians. A dark energy moved down, becoming closer, like it was calling me to leave this world. I was overcome with fear and fiercely resisted, attached to the need to keep my family and body. The force continued, its might making my attempt to resist pointless. When I finally gave up, I realized that I was going to leave this planet. I yielded to the power, and a voyage into the transcendence began. A massive tree loomed in this otherworldly landscape, its brilliant light seeming to fill the entire space. A vast array of little animals lived in harmony around the tree, giving off an air of strange but deep love. Their voices reached deep into my soul and enveloped me in a tranquility I had never experienced before. My body began to ease into a deep state of relaxation as I felt myself softly rising. This ease penetrated deeper beyond the surface, up to the very center of who I am. It was like nothing Earth had ever shown me, the mosaic of varied wildlife that stretched out in front of me. They exuded an odd, unspoken kinship as their hues created a captivating palette. We seemed to have a secret understanding with each other. Continued anyhow, walking lightly but deliberately. Kids played together, a mosaic of ethnicities and skin tones. Every single one is a proof of their distinct beauty and contagious joy. As they ran and played over the fields, laughter resounded. I followed their joyous gaze to an amazing garden with a regal fountain in the center of it. People of all ages I encountered along the way to the garden created a picture of peace and happiness. Smiles were shared freely as the air buzzed with love. Flowers of every hue grew all around the fountain, and people were having deep talks with each other that seemed to go beyond words. While some were engrossed in reading, I experienced no pain or discomfort. My thoughts briefly turned to my family, their temporary shadow cast by their earthly troubles. Nevertheless, hope rose, seeing them eventually. I came into an assembly of elderly people whose vitality defied their years. A far-off light drew my attention in a flower-filled garden with a calm river by their side. Might this be where I'm going? As I got closer, the love that was flowing from it became stronger, a whisper of finality, a calling warmth. As I got closer, its brightness enveloped me. My soul felt weightless as this light filled my being with an unmatched purity of love and tranquility. Gratitude overcame me, and I felt ecstatic and pleased. I started to be in amazement and awe at the enigmatic power leading me. A soft hand on my head announced a caring presence, a kind voice urging composure. Not yet, it said, revealing my unresolved concerns. That was the moment I started the trek home. In awe, it dawned on me, was this sudden comeback all there was to go? I was in a hospital bed watching physicians perform CPR, and the experience was breathtaking. Unnoticed previously, the enigmatic power persisted, continuing to develop love and harmony. There was a resistance to returning to my physical form. But then a stronger, louder voice emerged, stating that there was more at stake than just selfish enjoyment. My to-do list is excessive. I'm needed by too many people, it proclaimed. Apparently, my mission was not yet accomplished. I felt a sharp ache as the unidentified entity with a purpose carefully pushed me back into my body. I awoke to find myself surrounded by numerous medical professionals. I could feel the warmth rising in my chest. I began to cry out in desperation. No, I don't want to go back. I'd rather not go back. My pleas were ignored. My objection went unheard. I fell into a feeling of dread as sleep gradually engulfed me. Nobody seemed to be listening to my requests. Instead, they were all intent on returning me to this terrible world. My heart stopped pounding throughout the time I was away. But the doctor was determined to help me. My heartbeat returned after a seemingly endless period of time. Committed physician was by my side the entire night. At first, I was perplexed and thought the doctor was to blame for my return. Before I started to come to, it took several hours. I faced the truth of what had happened as gradually awareness began to dawn on me. After I told the doctor about my encounter, there was a long pause. He told me stories of near-death experiences after that, reassuring me that these were not unusual. He suggested that there might be an enigmatic force at work, possibly a deep-seated belief or faith. Admitted that I had no religious beliefs when asked. I thought about the doctor's statement and whether or if faith could help me understand this unexplained event. I felt calmed by his statement that faith might give strength in the face of hardship. Coming home was met with conflicting feelings. I was very grateful to be reunited with my spouse and family. Confusion persisted at the same time as I had trouble putting the scenes I had seen into words. After I shared the vision of power and light with my husband, he brushed it off as a post-operative hallucination, which gave me comfort in his doubt. Memories replayed themselves in my head while I sat on my bed. The voice stayed, reassuring me that I still had people to serve and a purpose to fulfill. I clung to the veracity of my encounter despite my husband's incredulity. It was unquestionably real and not a drug-induced delusion. I think that this life-changing experience will continue to influence me for years to come. I am persuaded that I should treasure this chance to make a meaningful contribution, and I am thankful for it. I am inspired to pursue a meaningful life by the voice's advice, as I am convinced that this encounter with the remarkable will change the course of my life.